the Dork Podcast with Rich Keefe. It's the Dork Podcast and Davey. It's the Dork Podcast. Hashtag. It's the hashtag Dork Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Hashtag Dork. In fact, a dink. First dink of Dorktober. I am joined by the one and only Nicole. Nicole, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
Today?
I'm doing great. Davey did not watch Midnight Mass. Therefore, Davey is not a part of the Midnight Mass dink.
Lucky me.
We will start spoiler free.
Okay.
Did you like it?
Yes, I did. Did you?
I did like it. I thought it was a slow burn. And I differentiate slow burn and slog. As slow burn, there's at least a payoff. Whereas a slog is just slow throughout and then never gets any better. Whereas slow burn, it was like a ton of dialogue. But I got somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
I told you I thought the dialogue at times was masturbatory.
I agree with you.
And so there was times I found myself sort of looking at my phone, but you could look back up and not have missed a whole lot.
Right. It was 7 episodes. They were all a full hour. So This was 7+ hours of television. It's a one-off. It's a miniseries. Netflix. And again, this is the spoiler-free portion of it. But the monologues of some of the characters were a bit much.
A bit much. But that being said, it was an easy binge.
Yeah, I found myself watching it in probably 2 or 3 days as well.
Same. So even though the dialogue could be very heavy at times, the episodes were easy to get through.
So I thought the acting was good.
Very good.
And so what pulled me in was, well, first of all, this is the show done by Mike Flanagan, who did The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor.
Okay.
I loved Hill House. I did not love Bly Manor.
Same.
Okay.
I liked Blythe Manor. It wasn't my favorite.
Yeah.
I got through it.
I watched it too. I watched the whole thing. It just felt, I don't know if they sold us a bill of goods, like it was going to be scary and it wasn't, or I'm not sure what it was, but it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah. And the last episodes weren't as good as the first few.
No. And Hill House had some high highs and some real scares and some good dialogue, and I like that. This, I was like, all right, this will be an interesting kind of tiebreaker for him. And also not super scary.
I didn't think
at
it was
all,
scary,
right?
No.
Maybe the least scary of the 3.
I would agree with that.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, Blythe Manor towards the end was kind of...
That's true. I mean, right. It might not have been any worse than that.
I found this shocking at times.
Yeah, there was definitely some surprises. Like I didn't realize this was the show that it was going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there were things that happened that we won't talk about now that it really took me... I did not see coming.
Good point. I got sucked in based on the first preview or the first trailer, and Matt Saracen, who plays the character Riley Flynn, is what pulled me in. I'm like, I haven't seen this guy in a while. I loved him in Friday Night Lights, and he was awesome.
He was
the real deal.
He was great.
I think across the board, the acting was good.
I agree. I think the priest was phenomenal.
The priest was really good. I forget what his name is in real life. He played Father Paul Hill. He was the one that probably had the most, like his script would have been interesting to look at. It was probably just pages and pages and pages.
I thought the actress who played Bev Keane was fantastic. I thought she was perfectly cast.
Yes, because you end up hating her. And
you
realize how good she is at what she's doing. I guess she was in Grey's Anatomy, somebody said? Maybe? I don't know. I didn't do all the heavy lifting on that part of it. I didn't IMDb her, but I didn't really recognize her. And then obviously Erin Green is played by Kate Siegel, who's Mike Flanagan's wife in real life.
Oh, I did not know that.
So she's in Hill House. She's in Bly Manor. She's in that horror movie they did together, Hush.
And that's why she looked familiar.
Yeah, so she's in all these same ones, and she was really good. She also had a pile of dialogue. She was really good. So I thought the characters were good. I thought the story was good. It was pretty unique.
Very unique.
Because this is a genre where there can be a lot of overlap, a lot of remakes, a lot of kind of same old. This was different.
It was different.
What else non-spoiler can you hit on? Worth watching.
It was. I would recommend it.
I highly recommend it. And know that it may take you a minute to get into it because you're like, all right, this is kind of long, but worth sticking with.
Definitely.
And you think about it, right? Did you find yourself thinking about the show a lot?
Yes, and I found myself wanting to watch another episode.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was like waiting. Okay, I have to stop now. When can I get back to it?
Yeah, I agree. What would your hashtag dork score be for Midnight Mass? 1 being Cho jeans, 6 being fireballs. Or no, I'm sorry, laser beams.
A 4 or 5, maybe 4.5.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. 4.5, because I don't think it's as good enough to be a full-on 5.
It's not good enough to be a 5.
But a 4 might undersell it a little bit.
I think
all right,
that's
so
right.
we're in agreement. A 4 out of 5, worth your time, worth your 7 hours. Available on Netflix right now. Let's get to spoilers.
Sounds good.
Spoilers! 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 Here come the spoilers! This was a vampire story, and one that at the beginning I didn't know what it was going to be. In Midnight Mass, and you see the priest, you realize it's going to be there's a lot of religious horror.
A lot of religious work.
But you weren't sure it was a vampire story.
That's correct. It took me a lot longer, I think, than it should have to figure out that they were vampires. I thought for sure they can't be vampires. They've got to be sort of fallen angels or so, because the man had wings.
He did have wings.
And that was never explained.
But some vampires can fly. Some can turn into bats.
Is that what that was?
Well, so this was, to me, it's kind of like The Walking Dead. They never say zombies.
Okay.
This show, they never say vampires.
Never.
But it's cool as those, they pull scripture from the Bible and they say, they like apply it to vampires. And you're like, oh shit, that is kind of makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And like bathed in fire and all this other stuff.
And can't be out in the sun.
Right.
Or they burn.
You know, like garlic, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But because the father, Paul Hill, he describes it as an angel, and how people, when they see an angel, they're terrified and all that stuff. So he always refers to it as an angel, but it's very clearly a vampire, because this one, and we only see the one original.
Yes.
They eventually turn a bunch of people.
Multiple vampires by the end.
But there's a lot of blood sucking, a lot of graphic blood sucking in this. And
almost sexual blood sucking.
Yeah. Like almost like can't be disturbed blood sucking. Like almost like it has no mind or anything else.
Nothing.
That one scene with the wings getting cut was gross.
That was disgusting.
So she's just like getting eaten, and he's like cutting the wings, and he just doesn't seem to care.
Well, that sort of leads me to the surprises.
Yes.
I did not expect so many people to die.
They all did.
Every single one of them,
except
for the
2 kids.
2 kids.
Yeah. It is nuts. And I love the setting. It's called Crockett Island, which is like a tiny ass, like smaller than Nantucket.
Where do you think that island was? Is it New England or West Coast?
I thought they said Portland and not Portland, Maine. I think they meant Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
So I think it's like Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
And it's a tiny little like fishing town or whatever. So it's a cool setting.
Yes.
Yeah, because then Matt Saracen goes to Chicago, right, for a little bit, and then comes back.
Right, but could be in the middle.
No, exactly. So I'm just saying, but I think they referenced Washington. But either way, it doesn't matter. It's in the ocean, and it's all by itself, and it's super small, and it's such a cool setting. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen 30 Days of Night.
I have not.
So that's a vampire story in Alaska, and it's because they're dark for 30 days. So it's obviously a good place to go.
Yeah.
And this is the same idea. Like if you go here and you just cut the boats, nobody can get anywhere at any time. And yeah, it was a massacre. They massacred the entire island.
Straight up. And that surprised me. Well, when Riley first got attacked.
Yeah, you thought he was dead.
Yes. And I was not expecting that.
No.
Because he's the main character.
Or so I thought. I thought he was the main character too. And I guess it could have either been Aaron Green or maybe the priest.
Right.
Were probably the 2 main characters. But Saracen was in all the trailers for it. He was like the first character you meet and what he's dealing with, right? He's drunk driving and kills a girl.
Right.
And I don't know if they were trying to make that scary or not, but they show him seeing the girl like in these dreams, like these fever dreams.
Right.
But that was kind of it.
He kind of relives the accident every single day of his life, almost.
Yeah, and he's dealing with that. His dad, who was in E.T. and in the last 2 Haunting of Bly Manor and Hill House, he does not like his son, seems like.
I think he's ashamed of him.
Probably a bit ashamed of him. And so like they had some good scenes there, but it was so frustrating when he got attacked because he was going over to see Aaron.
Yes.
And then he's like, actually, I don't believe you. I'm going to go check in on this guy. And then he goes and sees the father. He sees the vampire and then gets attacked. And then that ends the episode.
So the question that I had was in one of the first few episodes when Riley thinks he sees the Monsignor on the beach during the hurricane or the storm that came in.
Yeah.
Was that the vampire?
Maybe he saw the vampire. Or maybe he saw the Monsignor out there looking for blood or something, because he's got to drink some sort of blood.
The guy was very tall.
He was very tall. That was the scariest part of the thing, I guess, is when when the church door opened and it was the vampire dressed in like the priest outfit.
Yes.
That was pretty scary.
That was very scary.
So that was probably the scariest part. But it could have been. So you're saying maybe it was him outside?
What if it was the vampire? Why didn't he attack Riley then?
It's a good question.
And where did the cats come from?
It seemed like he only attacked people who either saw the truth for sure or were like gonna attack like the father. Because remember when the Dr. Sarah Gunning's mother sees, she like goes to shoot him,
right?
And he goes and attacks her and flies her out,
right?
Yeah, but it was interesting that there was only like the one main one, and like this whole trip. That was a cool reveal too. That Dr. Because he first shows up, the priest, and he's like, "Oh, I'm replacing the other guy."
Right?
Like, no, I am the fucking other guy.
Right.
So that was pretty cool. I'm a little surprised that people didn't catch on to it a little sooner, because he looks the exact same
in the town?
Yeah.
Because at some point, I don't know, by episode 3 or 4, I was like, "Is this the priest?" I think this might be the priest
because he's looking at Sarah Gunning the same way. She even makes a reference like, "Oh, he's looking at me the exact same way Monsignor looked at me."
Right.
So I knew they were going to be doing some sort of age thing when they showed. Remember the mother that was sick?
Yes.
She very clearly was a young actress in old people stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, they're going to de-age her obviously at some point. So I knew that was going to happen. I didn't realize that they were going to do it in this way, but that was sort of a dead giveaway.
Yes.
Because you're like, why would you hire a young lady to be this old, putting her in an old suit?
So the vampire blood was healing people, but was it also turning them?
Yeah. So it's kind of confusing because it's almost like in True Blood, where you never watched True Blood.
No, I never saw.
So True Blood's great because the blood of a vampire was like a drug.
Okay.
It was in part turning you, but it wasn't. There's more to it. Like there's more of a ritual involved. And this one seemed like, again, which I think was very unique, is the father is basically feeding everybody vampire blood. They weren't turning into vampires, but the one girl who couldn't walk could all of a sudden walk.
People were aging in reverse.
Them, but they could still go in the sun. And it wasn't until they got attacked or bitten by a vampire that they would then be an actual vampire, I guess.
Although it killed the other one's baby.
Yes.
And made it seem like she was never pregnant.
Right, because they say that itself is an attack on the human body or something like that. They had some weird explanation for why, like, because it was actually like curing her or something. I don't know, strange.
It was strange.
But that is true. Like, and so at the end, the girl in the boat is now, she's like, I can't feel my legs. That's how it ends. But she's alive and she's not a vampire.
But is it because the vampires that turned her died?
They don't really explain that. I assume it must be because like the main head honcho vampire died. But it was just going to be a feeding frenzy.
We don't know that the main head honcho vampire died.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Are you surprised that Bev and what was the other guy, like Lurch or whatever the hell the guy's name was, that they were so quick to be like, all right, this is what this is? They didn't fight back at all on the, we're dealing with vampires now?
I thought it was sort of an interesting allegory on...
I was reading some of the comments.
Yeah, I saw.
Did the original vampire make it to shade before the sun came out in the end? He might have. And then I think it's because the main vampire died. He got his wings cut. So I think the main vampire probably died, but they don't show it. He's just kind of flapping, and then they have the conversation like, did he make it? And they're like, no way he made it. But they don't show you that he died. So it's kind of choose your own adventure at the end.
But I think the whole story is an allegory to religious fanaticism.
Yeah.
And
yeah, there's definitely a lot of that.
They wanted to believe so badly that this was the second coming, basically, that they were willing to fit all of these events into biblical verses.
Which was pretty cool, actually.
It was great storytelling.
I'm not super religious, so I don't know if religious people had a problem with that and they were annoyed with it, but I thought it was good. And it tied in pretty well. Like the stuff that they decided to pull from, if you just think about it with the vampire context, you're like, oh, yep.
Yeah, they did a great job because you can see how they did think he was the second coming.
Well, like they're literally seeing miracles before them, and they're seeing this girl walk. They're seeing the bedridden old lady turn young. Like they're seeing all that stuff. So, well, the line they use in the show is like, all right, it turns you into your best self.
Right.
So like Matt Saracen looked the same because he's basically in his prime of his life. He's like 30 years old or whatever.
Right.
Whereas
when he wasn't going to church.
he wasn't, which was also a cool part
he wasn't
too.
taking communion.
But they were also saying, what was the whole thing with Bev? Yeah, if you were taking communion,
you were getting the vampire blood.
Yes. And then that way you would just turn into like a cool vampire after, like you could get attacked or whatever. Like there was that switch because Bev makes the point, like, well, if you're getting communion this, you're getting communion that, like it changes things.
Right. Because I think that's why they were all able to come back to life
at
the end, because he'd been giving them enough.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Vampire blood.
I thought the best scene in the whole show was Saracen on the boat. When he brings Aaron Green out into to explain to her, and he's like, "You won't believe me any other way." And she's like, "Did you get me out here to be alone with me?" And he's like, "No, I brought myself out here." That was awesome because I didn't know which direction they were going to go with it. And I guess my question to you is, did he have to sacrifice himself? Did he have to die?
For her to believe him, or for
just at any point, like, could he? Because again, once you turn vampire, it doesn't mean you turn bad. If you can somehow control, and I guess it's more difficult.
I mean, I guess you're always bad because you have to always drink blood.
Yeah, but there's got to be ways around it. Like again, to pull another True Blood example, they eventually got like synthetic blood, and they would drink that. But before that, people would eat like animals and stuff.
Right. I mean, I would say he had to. He had to sacrifice himself.
Well, he probably didn't want to be a vampire forever, too.
Yes, and he didn't want to live forever, and he didn't like what he had become.
But that was the
I think it was the ultimate redemption.
Yeah, it was a pretty good story, and he's like,
because then he meets the woman that he killed, girl that he killed.
Yeah,
and you assume maybe he's going to heaven.
Maybe.
I mean,
yeah, I mean, maybe. It was a pretty cool scene, and then the whole that episode ends with her screaming, just for a long
bloody
time.
Murder. Yeah.
But I also wondered why they were in like a wooden boat. Why didn't the boat catch on fire?
I thought that too, and then I thought maybe the boat was metal.
Oh, maybe I thought it was wood.
It'd be really hot unless he just busted into himself.
Right in front of him.
Yeah.
But that was pretty crazy because I'm like, he just turned into a vampire, so I thought maybe his urges would he would leap forward and kill her, and then I would have been like, what are we doing with the show?
Right.
But he died, and he's like, just row to like the mainland. And
right.
She's like, I'm not going to do that.
I'm going to save everybody else.
And she didn't, though.
No, she did not.
No, she did not.
She did not.
Everybody died.
I mean, it was a real massacre at the end.
Oh, it was a bloodbath. It was literally a bloodbath.
And then the Bev character becomes such a zealot that she lights all the buildings on fire and basically.
And they're like, where can we hide?
Right.
Nowhere.
Because
they could have survived. Now they would have had to go to the mainland, and then that would have been a whole thing. And then you go and like destroy Seattle with vampires. But do we get a sense of like how many vampires there are in the world? Because
no,
you don't at all.
No, you just. I mean, I would say that's like one hole, right? Is there's no explanation for why that man or the original vampire looks the way he does.
No.
Why he has wings.
Nope.
Why he's taller than everybody.
He's real tall.
Why he looks like a monster.
Yeah, he definitely. And because the Monsignor was on like a trip and he was like really sick and he ended up getting like isolated by himself. And then he came across
in the desert.
Like,
right. So you know how like Jesus spends X amount of days in the desert.
Yeah. I mean, roughly.
But I think
40 days and 49.
Yeah. I think he gets lost in the desert and then sort of in his demented mind.
Yeah.
Thinks that he is on, I think, the same path that Jesus was on and finds this.
But then he turns full vampire and then comes on back. But I thought it was cool in the show how they also had the characters like realize what they were and then sort of like, all right, now I gotta go inside, or like any kind of reveal. That's one of my favorite parts about all vampire stories is the reveal of the person who becomes a vampire, the reveal that other people understand that there are now vampires in this world. Because for a couple of episodes in this, you had no idea what the main thing was going to be. It didn't feel, you thought it was going to be more. I thought for a second Matt Saracen was just going to get haunted by the girl that he killed. I thought it was going to be like more of a ghost story. And then it morphed and then it went, nope, we're doing vampires.
For some reason, I thought it was going to be more of like a true crime type story. And then again, it took me a long time to figure out they were vampires.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the Loaf King says everybody called him an angel. It was very apparent he wasn't an angel, although Nicole thought he was an angel for a while.
But I did.
vis-a-vis. I mean, it's
I
the
just
same.
didn't
He's
see how
accomplishing the same
I just
stuff.
didn't see how vampires fit in. It was there was all
The
this.
blood sucking to me is a dead giveaway.
We don't know what fallen angels do. Do they suck blood?
Oh, I don't know. We're gonna read the Bible again.
I don't know. I haven't read the Bible enough.
What else? Anything else jump out at you about Midnight Mass?
Well, I was just thinking, no one ever explained the cats.
Oh,
Had the vampire just drank them all?
Yeah, he must have. And then they turned into like vampire cats because he must have bit them or maybe something like that. Yeah, you're right. There's all those cats on the.
They all died.
Yeah. I don't know. What else did I come down with? I'm telling you, I liked the setting. I liked where it was. I thought the small island was cool. It was sort of a little bit different. And they were all very vulnerable the whole time.
Right.
Just being where they were at. Good character development story, and then just people dying.
Lots of people dying.
Yeah.
It was interesting at the end how Riley's parents could sort of overcome being a vampire where everybody else in the town seemingly went bloodthirsty crazy.
Yeah, it kind of affected everybody differently.
Yes. And they were able to rise above it. I mean, they also had the letters from Riley.
Right.
Who had told them this was happening, and they thought he was really mentally ill.
Yeah, they did. And that part pissed me off with like when they went and told like the father what it was. Because the father ultimately, not a bad guy. I think for parts of it, he feels like a bad guy. I don't think he meant to certainly bring this on there. He thought.
He thought he was bringing them.
He thought
he
was saving everybody.
Yes.
And then I think once he had the discussion with Mildred, who was the old lady who became young again.
Yes.
And who was also the mother of his child. What do you think of that little twist?
So that's actually interesting because I saw that. I thought, oh, so this is what this is all about. Because for so long he's so steeped in his holier than thou sort of religious, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you did this all because you fell in love with this woman years ago and had a daughter.
Yeah.
Right?
I guess. Yeah. Part of it. Now he would have no way of knowing he was going to turn into a vampire at some point.
No, but after he turned into a vampire and he became what he thought was this angel or whatever he thought he was, he made the decision to come back to the island to bring this healing power to people. And he did it for her because she had dementia and she was elderly.
Right.
And he wanted to sort of save her and have the life that they didn't have because she was married to someone.
Right. So I guess in a way, it was a love story after all. This is what it came down to.
Apparently so.
All right, what are we getting here? The Fall of the House of Usher is going to be the next Flanagan one. Yeah, I saw he's got a couple of things, I think, in the hopper. It's worth watching, I'll tell you, because I was pretty sour after Bly Manor, but after this one, I'll definitely watch the next thing he has. You kind of know it's going to be dialogue heavy.
I can't even remember how Bly Manor ended.
So Bly Manor was the one that
with the house.
Yeah, they're in the house, and then there was that big well. Remember, then somebody went down the well.
Oh yeah.
Who's alive? Who's dead? Kind of thing.
Okay.
What else about this one? I think that might be.
I thought it was really good, in talking it over now. There's like so many things now.
Yeah.
That like aspects that I hadn't thought of before.
And it was because didn't Saracen die at the end of like episode 5 or whatever, and so you had a couple episodes without him. I'm like, how's this gonna go? But I think they pulled it off and they did a good job kind of tying everything up.
He appeared at the time to be the main character.
He did.
So when they killed him, it was a shock.
We didn't mention the sheriff at all. Sheriff Omar Hassan was really good. He and his son.
Great.
And it was a good. You needed the outsider character,
right?
And so not just an outsider of the church, but an outsider of the whole island altogether.
Right.
And so you kind of felt like you were on his side the whole time.
I mean, how hard it would have been for those parents when their kids turned and they had to leave them, or you had to leave the husband behind.
Terrible.
They returned. That must have been terrible for him.
And then when he caught Bev, she had all like the poison, and then their interactions, the two of them were pretty good together.
Because she was poisoning the dog.
Yeah.
She was evil. Oh, I think one of my favorite scenes was when Riley's mom tells Bev, "You're not good. You think you're good, but you are not a good person."
And then she stabs herself in the jugular.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kills herself.
That was intense. But she knew she'd come back.
Yes. Was she?
But that part was weird. Like you could like really die and then come back as long as you had like the blood in you. So there was like blood baths and they're all like feeding off each other.
Yes.
And then they're just like, give it a minute, come back, like break the guy's neck back and you're good.
But the thing that didn't make sense to me, I guess because they all had the vampire blood in them, so that they could continue to, they could get hurt and live because they were being slowly turned. Because the drunk guy, Joe,
did not go to church.
He did not go to church. So when he died. He died.
Right. Yeah. Because Saracen wasn't going to do it. And then remember he did. Like they were like, go take the blood or whatever. Didn't he do that at one point? How did he live? Oh no, because he got killed by the main guy. The main angel.
And they turned him then.
Yeah. Pretty good show. All right.
Yeah.
I think that's it. That's all I got. Great. Midnight Mass. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. You can tweet us at Dork Podcast. You can also email us dorkpodcast@gmail.com. We're taking a Midnight Mass. And be on the lookout for more Dork Dinks this Dorktober. Nicole, good job as always.
Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later.